Hey guys, welcome back with another live Play&Explain video. Unfortunately, not too much action on the higher zoom levels. E6 is close, but I think we can open raise. And this flop seems pretty good for us. I think we can just go range bet small. Should be fine. Take it down. But yeah, my last 500 zoom video performed quite good, unsurprisingly, with the views. So sometimes try to log into stars and see if there's some action there, but unfortunately not too much action on the zoom games, although the rec tables at the higher stakes were pretty good lately in stars, especially on 1k and also sometimes on 2k. But yeah, not too much 500 zoom action. Sorry for you guys. 200z is definitely not the range bet board, and A7 seems like, without a heart or a diamond, seems like one of the hands that wants to check back more often than the global frequency. And probably the worst hands to see bet on those sort of boards are, or the lowest frequency of hands like King 9 with no heart, because they just don't accomplish much. He always calls King 10 plus every A6, so there are certain hands that really don't want to see bet. And on the turn I would play 25 check. And I think A7 just is a bit too weak to value bet the turn. If I had like Ace-10 plus, I think certainly could go for a block bet in my shoes. And table 1 I insta-see bet the King 4-deuce is also not really a range bet, but especially versus, like, I assume most players on 200 zoom are not the best at defending versus small c-bets. So in doubt, I just prefer to c-bet a bit wider. Table 1 with an interesting board. Like, I think the global c-bet frequency would be like around 55% or something. And I roll pretty high, so I would go for the c-bet. But it's quite important to check those sort of hands as well, and not only, check when you have ace-king or a hand that is a give up. But also, like, every sort of hand has to get into the checking range sometimes. Ace-king would always be a jam if you face a 4-bet in those positions. We get an interesting board. Like, this is again quite a high frequency check back board. Those ace-low boards where out of position makes the lower sets quite often. Table 2 is big bet check, roll high, so this time I go for a big bet. But I think ace-king, especially with the ace in hearts, is probably a pure bet. And then I can start checking ace-queen, ace-check and other check-X. Or maybe even ace-king, but without a heart. Easy check on the turn now, of course. I think a lot of players mix it up that they would think, oh, with the heart it's nicer to check back because you need like less protection. But it's actually, you want to build a bigger pot with a stronger hand, and you can value bet more comfortable on more runouts when you have the ace in hearts and it's just a stronger hand, so you want to get more money in the pot. Table 1, we face a very small sizing, so presumably a recreational player. I mean, ace-king in those positions is mostly a call anyway. And table 2, this is just a pure fold. I don't think I need to call non-board pairs versus the pot step, and this hand with the diamond seems quite bad. Interesting, face the big bet here. Could potentially already fast play, but probably better. Like, this is a completely unknown player to me and most likely recreational, so there's of course always a chance that he could be a complete spew whale who has like ace-5 off or something. So just go for the call. Same on the turn. Don't think there's too much merit in raising. And yeah, we'll just step check through her, so interesting. I would imagine that he mainly has a give up. Perhaps he's afraid of f7. I mean, that would not be a good play. I mean, I go for it if he has a stronger hand, then I blitz, you get my stack. It does fold. Yeah, seems likely to be a recreational player. Fold, fold, fold. I mean, now you see why Zoom is the preferred format for those videos, because if you get dealt only trash hands, at least you can fast fold them. And of course you don't have to go through all the trouble of table selecting or table breaking if I would record rec tables. So while those games are not, I wouldn't necessarily recommend to play those games because they are not very profitable quite often. At least not compared to rec tables. They just make for a great video format. Table 1, pure call. The sort of hands that you raise infrequently, but you can raise, and if you think the guy sees it so much, you can raise them quite a lot. Hands like 4-5 suited, like bottom pairs that don't have much going on, or weak gut shots. Let's say you have a hand like 6-5 suited, that would also be a really nice raise, I think, on those sort of texture. Ace-10 suited, mixing between calling and cold forwarding, calling and forwarding. But unfortunately, you get the jam. Close versus this. In those positions, I don't think I can go for value. Versus the button's easy value bet, I would imagine. But not too sure, honestly. Haven't put too much time into monotone bots. Perhaps mine is still worth a block, but seems a little bit dicey. Again, a board texture where we will need to have quite some checkbacks, and mine seems like a decent c-bet, but on a low roll, I will go for the checkback. And table 2 is just a great board for us. I think you can bet half pot range actually in those positions. Out position on table 2 should play overbet check, and my delay sizing should be, I think, a small one, as I will have hands like pocket 8, 7-8 suited, 9s, 10s that want to just stab once and then check back. And Queen 9 seems like a fine hand to start with a delay bluff. The most common line after check check flop will be check check turn as well though, because most of my hands that don't want to bet flop also don't want to step the turn. Like all of my kings, queens, jacks, the weaker aces, they can't really get two streets, so they are not too incentivized to start putting money in on the turn and reopening the action, allowing out of position to check raise, etc. So I would imagine that my turn stepping range is actually not it's not a very high frequency play. On a high roll I will go for the free bet here. Assume this guy is a recreational. And yeah, given the snap call, I'm pretty sure that he is. Great flop both for range and hands, so that's perfect. And the out of position donks small. I imagine I just want to raise. I don't see too much merit of overcalling here. And I think it's also like probably quite a printing play with my bluffs. As I expect this not to be too strong, but 6-5 is close. I think I will go for a call. But I deny some equity from Stratman here by raising. Let's see, as ace jack is 10, those sort of hands all need to mark. And yeah, I have a strong hand. It can't be too bad to raise. Let's keep it simple. And take the note, donk smalls, folds. What do we? Another short stacked guy, so most likely recreational, but necessarily of course. On those ace boards you actually play 0 raises, blind be blind. Same on the king textures. So quite contrary to, let's say it was big blind versus button and you're out of position. Then you are incentivized to play a lot of small raises. But of course it's a completely different spot. Here we are in position. And the insta checks turn. So I think from a theoretical perspective, I think a very small sizing would be good, as I would want to value bet 4x, 7x, like non-ace-x hand that where he still has to call out of king x. But given that we quite likely assume this is a recreational player, I just size up because of a good hand. But yeah, I think the theoretical sizing here would be small, I would imagine. I don't think you would want to polarize to trips here on the turn. Face a very big free bet from the guy we already know. So I will just go for the 4-bet. I mean, jamming is certainly also an option, but I'm out of position, so I'm not even sure like how much post-flop edge you can ever have when he's in position, but I still would give myself some edge. So just try to perhaps force him to make more mistakes post-flop. If he's the sort of guy who free bets and calls off like ace queen or something, or king queen, or 7-6 suited, then of course I would just want to jam my hand pre-flop. But I don't really know that. And quite often recreationals are too low spree and then start also to over bluff, so it is close. Like, I don't love checking necessarily with my particular hand, but if I think the guy is just too wide, then yeah, that seems like a good outcome. Face the small free bet. Kind of close actually, but I do think I will fold. Oh, he had his queen, yeah, I mean, unlucky. Unlucky for him. But yeah, if you don't, like, the more infos you have on the recreational player, the easier it is to play those spots, but quite often they just call too much preflop. Let's say king queen off, maybe like ace queen off also should not call preflop, it's also an overcall, so they already make a mistake there, then they don't fold much on the flop either, and arrive with way too much air on the turn. Ace queen is actually a mix, I roll low, so I will go for the call. And we are a bit deeper, so I will size up. Of course I have aces. Always sizing up when I have a strong hand. But yeah, if I have like over 115, if you're over 115 big blinds deep, I just add 1 big blind to my sizing. And then if you're like really deep, or like over 200 big blinds deep, then I actually start to size down again. It goes for the, I assume, range bet, which is a fine sizing. Like I would personally play a big bet or check strategy, but it's of course totally fine. And my hand seems like an easy 3/4. Those spots are not as trivial as they look like. Like we have a lot of different hands that want to bet different sizings. I mean, I have so many different hand classes. I have, of course, Jack X, 10x, then I have trips, then I have some ace-x, then I have some straights, then I have flushes. So you want to accommodate all those the best sizing for all those different hand classes. It's not always so trivial, but I would assume Jack X and 10x is way too weak to bet, so those hands would have to check, which already can tell you, okay, you need to have some traps, because otherwise your check range is just way too weak, and imposition is incentivized to value bet against that with his ace-x. Then you have your ace-x. I think the ones that don't play the board, like everything other than ace queen, basically, like if I had I don't have really many ace-x anyway, right? That are not 2-pair or ace queen. And then with your trips plus region, you probably want to go into the overbet, I would assume. Perhaps 75 is even, like, in theory too big for my hand. But I don't know, after him snap checking the turn, I just think I have the best hand always, so feels like the appropriate sizing. And I mean, it's close, but I think I just fold versus the good forward here. But yeah, you can ponder quite a while about those simple bet check bet spots, which are not that simple after all. But theory is one thing, and then there's another thing with how much do I actually think my hand is worth. And when he snap checks the turn, I just don't expect him to have straights, I don't expect him to have flushes, ace jack, ace 10. I think those hands would all consider betting at least. So in theory, my hand is, the more I think about the hand, is probably betting smaller, like only block sizing. Or maybe even checking, because there's like so little hands that want to block that you don't really want to build a range around those sort of hands. But yeah, I think table 2 I will start bluffing, and think like different strategies are fine, but delay blocking and then going for a 3/4 sizing is a line that generally performs quite well versus recreational players, so I will go for it. And it worked this time as well. But yeah, I talked a lot of confusing stuff about this board, so let's end it here. Dealt aces again. Not running too bad so far. Oh, that sucks. Actually going to open the ace-4 with the recreational big blind. Not ideal to get the call from the button. Pretty solid board for us. But I think we still need to check quite a bit. This range is just way more condensed and strong than our opening ranges. And in theory, I don't get to bluff nearly every no-mate hand here. Like, just think about it, I have all the 9-8, 10-9, Jack-9. I have so many potential bluff candidates. In practice, however, versus potentially a range that is too pocket pair heavy, I just go for the bet on the turn. Like, a lot of times people don't have proper flattening ranges on the button, which might not even be a mistake when there's a recreational involved. Like, this guy might just have had like 5-4 suited, pocket deuces for something like that, those, and he thought, oh well, there's a recreational big blind, so I have a profitable call with those hands, and like, he's not wrong, but it also makes his range really weak on some boards. But of course, those are just assumptions. Perhaps he has a proper flatting range on the button, and then I might just be spewing money by way over bluffing in the spot. And yeah, pure jam with kings, I think. Good luck us. That's a good outcome. And we hold. King Jack is the sort of hand that doesn't really want to free bet and get 4-bet, so it's just a pure call. And will always defend versus a c-bet. Face a check, don't think this hand ever does anything. Seems just like the sort of hand that tries to check down, strong king high. But you know, you always want to tank a bit, not make it too face up what you are holding. Table 2, I think this is, like, even Furious is probably just a fine play. You have so many value bets on the turn because the board is so dry. I think if I had like ace queen, ace jack, those hands could still value bet even for 3/4 sizing. There's another check, I think, probably on those more high card connected board, 3/4 step sizing would be fine. The threshold is probably around my hand. Call, donk. Well, yeah, I think I just fold. And I will go for another bet on the river. And now you can see like why you wouldn't want to bet like Jack 10 or something on the turn, because those hands are really like or at least not too often, because those hands don't really can play for multiple streets. King Jack is already like, I think in theory probably kind of, I mean, when he checks twice, I can't imagine the hand can't value bet 2 times for 3/4. But who knows? But yeah, I think this is like roughly the threshold. Again, versus recreational, I don't mind just barreling and be very aggressive. I just expect him to fold a hand like queen, jack, king, queen an awful lot by this time. And yeah, if he only calls me with 10x plus, then that's okay for me. And he had king check, so the nuts, so that's fine. Looks quite speedy, but it should make money, I think. King check is a low frequency free bet. And here I think versus recreational and then one in the big blind, I have two options. One is call, one is free bet. But free betting in position, playing a big pot is usually quite nice. Take it down. King 6, kind of close-ish, but fine. I mean, already know that this guy calls. Could maybe argue to free bet this, but I still don't know how loose this guy really is. Snap pot bet, kind of rough. Because recreational players often heavily overestimate the hand, but I think I actually just fold. It is possible he has just ace jack, ace 10, which is kind of rough. But I mean, I would so much rather call any hand with a heart here. Like if I have king check with a heart, I would much rather call that. And I don't know, when he already starts potting, I just don't think he will slow down a lot on brick runouts, and then I'm just again at a tough spot where I have to think maybe this guy just overplays like ace 10 and wants to pot and I have the best hand, but I don't know if there's just a decent chance also that I'm not doing very well. And I mean, that's part of the reason why you shouldn't play pot, because it allows me, like even from theoretical perspective, I just get to fold a lot versus a pot sizing, and yeah, it's not a smart strategy to pot there with ace jack or with any ace when I can fold a hand like ace queen then. But don't know. Ace queen is kind of close, but I still like the fold. Ace, like any other ace without the heart, is I think a snap fold. We have a small c-bet. I have two options here, of course. And yeah, I think I will go for the raise. Take it down, that's nice. Then I also did low frequency free bet, mostly call. And now we have, I mean, it's actually not the best hand, like 4, 5, 7, 5, where you block less folds. Those would be my preferred check raises. So I think this one where I just block also a bunch of folds, go for the call. And our friend again, overcalling. And we have seen him put in a lot of money when we check to him, so let's start with that. Is he fold? No, of course. And he does bet. Check raising is of course also an option. I mean, kings or aces I would for sure check raise. King, queen, like there's some value when there are some bad runouts, because of course you could still easily have a speed. And we are kind of deep, so certainly going to check again on the river and also consider bluff catching. Because on 4 flush runouts, often recreationals, they don't value bet the thing. That's not the nuts. But they just turn all sort of hands into bluffs, so. He didn't, but I wouldn't have been surprised to see him like just bet 9-8 and think like, yeah, okay, I don't win too much when I check, so I start bluffing and think it is a very profitable bluff catch. But yeah, also going to note, I mean, now in hindsight I probably would have then liked to check raise the flop, because yeah, when he overcalls hands like 9-8 suited, he really is quite wide. Ace 3 is kind of close. So overcalls 9-8 suited versus 3-bet in position and steps. Any pair, I think he stepped for a half-pot sizing. You guys lately told me that you like watching my notes, so I will include it a little bit more. A bit more, step like 66 or something. I think 150 check, just thinking whether queen check. Wants to check, I think, without a heart, probably, but with the heart it just seems a bit too nice to consider checking. And I mean, now we play versus a regular, so I have to be a little bit careful to not completely overdo it, and this seems like I give up on the river. The half now is bad, which was good on the turn. Checked in 7, I think I don't mind going for a min-bet range. And yeah, just have to fold. But I think like the turn, playing a very polarized turn strategy makes sense, of course, and you have such a massive advantage. And then you have a natural draws, and then you need like some, I think 4-5 suited would be a nice one, or like deuces threes with a heart. Those sort of hands I think would also be pretty great. On the flush turn, would go half pot check, and I think with the spade I prefer betting a bit more. Tough round to play, but I think on the river now I just go for a block bet. I mean, check calling would also be an option, but it feels like check X is strong enough to like. I also have hands, of course, like king queen, ace queen, like basically river queen X that wants to block, and then like it's a question, where do you draw the line? Like, is ace check still strong enough to go for it? Or is it, or does it have to be a queen? Is king check the threshold? Like, that's really difficult in those wide range scenarios. So again, a tough spot to play well. But basically those check 10 textures are pretty great for us, but when it's disconnected, I think you can either, like, I don't think you can range bet for quarter, so I think you need, if you want to play a simple strategy where you can bet any two, table 1 I will go for a half pot c-bet. Didn't make the note here unfortunately, but I think this was the guy that saw us bluffing off and that had the nuts. he does look a bit tight, so I think here I'm actually going to be a little bit more cautious. He's also a bit tight, so when he 3-bets in the big blind, I think I prefer calling over 4-betting. Not too many tough spots when you flop top pair every single time. Makes for a nice change. And here, like, you only can stab for a big sizing, and stabbing smaller doesn't make much sense. But yeah, I think here let's play those two hands first. Oh, here I actually make a very strong hand. Huh. I mean, this is not a play, but when I make the super nuts, I think the main objective is to get it all when he has a trips, which I don't think he ever folds. And yeah, I will get mostly folds, but I mean that should be fine. But yeah, I don't think it's like a theoretical play to ship there, and he has all the nuts himself. But playing versus recreational, you can just kind of do whatever you want, whatever your hand wants to do. But yeah, on those with the ace jack hand, I don't think you want to play overbets on the river, because both players should just have too many flushes and strong hands in the range. But I think 3/4 for like sets and straights and maybe strong 2-pair, and then block sizing for weaker 2-pair and river top pair, and maybe ace jack, something along those lines would be a good strategy. We could 3-bet. Checks is also a mix between 3-betting and between 4-betting and calling. We roll low, so this time we go for the call. Don't love calling out of position, but yeah, sometimes it has to be done. And we face the half-pot bet, so in theory I think he's supposed to have a check-back range, and then when he c-bets I shouldn't check risk too much. But quite often people range bet those textures. I think this can actually just muck. In which case, min raising a shit ton and putting pressure on his ace-king region is actually very nice. So it's a little bit of a guessing game if you don't know your opponent, because I don't think in theory you should play a lot of raises. That's of course not low turn, so this is for sure a range check. But yeah, assuming that people over c-bet a bit too much, I would have played a very aggressive check raise strategy, not only with checks but also like with other pairs and hands like, I don't know, ace jack suited. And then also went for like on non-high card turns, on like a 10 or lower, I would have gone for another block and then played block turn, block river, just put this ace high and under a lot of pressure. But I think, I mean, perhaps I can block my hand on the river, but it seems like such a bad run out, and I'm not sure if he value bets queens, so I just go for the check, and yeah, lose less versus queens, that's fine. But yeah, quite a tricky spot. I think table 2 actually could have c-bet the flop, because MP button, those boards are actually really great for us, so wouldn't have minded to go for a c-bet. And he goes for a kind of a medium step sizing, which I don't love. I think he should step ultra polarized to like almost 2-pair bluffs already on the flop, like maybe you sometimes bet king queen and that's about it. So now I would definitely expect the overbet. And just thinking whether my hand ever wants to do anything other than calling. Probably not. Like if I expect him to maybe bet like king queen a lot on the turn, then there's like some incentive. Because you get him to fold king queen, he calls dominated flush draws. Just go for the overbet. We don't have a terrible hand to call down, but it's tough when you don't really know the player. Like it's a spot that could be easily overbluffed, or it's a spot maybe he never bluffs. He's tanking quite a lot. Perhaps he has like river 6-5 or something and he thinks whether he can value bet. Okay, jams for 3 times pot, so yeah. Versus this I just get to fold infinite and don't think I will go for the call. Nice sensor. Bit weird, like him going for like the half pot step, then overbet turn. I mean, it doesn't really wrap many hands, right? Pocket sevens is the main hand. King check, I guess. But king check almost seems a bit close to maybe go for a 3x pot on the river. Face the min free bet, we'll just go for the call. In bet flop. I suppose a raise, I mean, can't really go too wrong with my hand here. Just hope he has like ace king, ace queen sort of hand that now folds. And table 2, I think like 75 to pot is actually decent here, because I still want to value bet my 10s and checks, ace 9 sort of hands. Actually pot I think I would have preferred. But I guess the job done. Too weak to go for something here. I have to suit it is close, but let's call it. And bottom pairs quite often go for check raises, but without a backdoor flush draw, it's probably plays more tight. And on the turn I play half pot check, and I think this is actually the sort of hand that makes it in a lot. But half pot I can bet any pair. Like frequency I can't bet them all, because then my checkmate would be too fucked. But when you then have a pair that also has a gut shot, those hands typically go into the pure betting line. Close, I mean this guy's not really a whale, so I guess I fold. You do have to be a lot tighter when you are out of position versus 2 players. And now the river would play blocker 75. Don't really need to overbet because the bulk of your betting range is 1 pair hands, and then he's incentivized to raise like aces if he has it, and then I can go over the top. But yeah, 5 deuce now goes into the checking range. And I think the weakest hand that I can block on the river is certainly a 7 is good enough. Maybe a good 6 plus. But they are basically in spots where you have lots of middling strong hands. Half-pot is a pretty nice probe sizing as out of position player. And wow, not bluffing king 10 on the river is a bit criminal. Like, that's just insane. I mean, the turn call is already close, but I mean, I don't hate it. With a diamond, it also gets better. Certainly need to call some king highs here, but probably more like king queen. Don't think king 10 is going to get in there. But yeah, then you certainly have to bluff the river when you float the turn, so I don't really get what he was trying to accomplish there. But yeah, certainly had some interesting hands in this session, so I think I will play the next big blind and then call it a day. Typically kind of autopilot on third, not really greatest strategy, but whatever. And feels close with ace 10 at those positions. Button big blind, of course, those hands after a small betting flop, you're just quite happy to check down, but I'm MP, so the ranges are a lot stronger, ace 10 is a lot weaker. Alright guys, thanks for watching, see you next one. Bye.